All right, let me get my slides up. I am Kirsten Hunter, as he said, and I'm going to be talking about quantifying your fitness. This is a Rube Goldberg sort of device that I put together that gives me sort of a carrot and a stick approach to encouraging me to actually do what I want to do in terms of burning calories and eating protein. So just as an example of what I think is less effective, the Fitbit, if you get to 75% of your steps, it tells you, yay, you got to 75% of your steps. If you get to 100%, it tells you that you're awesome also. However, at noon, when you haven't taken any steps, it doesn't tell you anything. It doesn't say, hey, dude, you got to get moving. So I put something together that made more sense to me, and it also kind of highlights a bunch of different APIs so we can see how they work together. So who am I? I am Princess Polymath, princesspolymath.com. I wanted to make a website where I could write whatever I want, so that's what I came up with. Sinedra on Twitter, if you feel like posting about what you think about my crazy little device. So I am an API evangelist at Akamai. I have the best job ever. I go around and I talk about and teach our APIs to our customers. And I also go to conferences and talk about different kinds of APIs, irresistible APIs, how to do public speaking, and various other things. So it's pretty awesome. So why would you want to quantify what it is you're doing? What difference does it make, right? So either you get your 10,000 steps or you don't. What happens if you get your 10,000 steps? Well, you can pat yourself on the back. You can say, oh, tomorrow morning I'm going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I'm going to use the exercise bike for an hour. And then you do it, and then you've done it. Most people are not really good at internal motivation and getting no sort of external feedback on how they're doing. External feedback is a powerful motivator. So I've created this system, and I get these SMSs that tell me to log my food and get myself moving. And even though I told it to do that, it's really a powerful way to motivate me to get going. It helps me to remember, and it's kind of exciting to have some devices tell me that I'm doing a pretty good job. Okay, I'm going to do a live demo today. There's going to be Philips Hue light bulbs. I'm going to show you what the logging looks like. It's really exciting, and if it doesn't work, I hope you all forgive me, but it's been working for the last 5 days. I have great faith in it. But live demos are, of course, always entertaining. So the system. Now, I used to have a different system. The system I used to have was MyFitnessPal and Fitbit, and I'll talk about why I use both of those. Twilio sends me SMSs, and then I use Twitter for if this then that glue to turn on my Philips Hue light bulbs, because there was no remote API for Philips Hue light bulbs. Well, 2 days before the last time I gave this talk, the if this then that connector to my Philips Hue light bulbs stopped working. So I sent tweets to if this then that and to the Philips Hue dev people, and they went like this. It's their fault. It's their fault. I'm pretty sure it's if this then that's fault, but it taught me not to trust if this then that as a piece of a live demo. So what I did last time was I created a Node.js server that runs on my system that talks locally to my Philips Hue lights, but that's not what I want. I want this to be completely cloud-based. I want it to just run all the time, so when I get home, my lights do what they're supposed to do. I get home and they tell me how I'm doing through the day. So let's talk about the different pieces. So MyFitnessPal has great food input and no open API. I have sent 17 messages to them on the thing where it says, we have a beta API, and never have they gotten back to me. So I'm going to say that's not an open API. But they have really good food input, and they have excellent exercise input as well when you're talking about things that aren't just the steps for the Fitbit. And they integrate with Fitbit. The Fitbit has a fantastic API. I would say they are probably #1 in the fitness industry, and almost everything integrates with them. So you can use it as a grand central station. They actually monitor things that their systems don't monitor. such as blood pressure, glucose, other things that you might pull in from a different system. So Fitbit makes a great aggregator of all of your data. The other choice at this point is Runkeeper, who also has a great health graph that you can use. I trust Fitbit a little bit more. They've done such a good job of establishing themselves as the standard in the industry that I don't expect them to go away. And they have so many applications that use their API, I don't think the API is going to go away either. I've worked at places like Netflix and LinkedIn where the API went away, so this is something that's near and dear to my heart. Twilio, if you're not familiar with them, they make their money by making something that's really hard, really easy. Telephony is hard. Voice is hard. SMSs are hard. Integrating with these systems is difficult. Twilio does it for you. They have a goal of 5 minutes to first call, and they usually do a pretty good job of making sure that the developer comes to their site, they can make a call within 5 minutes. I am the largest user of SMS. Most people use their other functionality, conference calls, transcription. They even have some video work that they do. So Twilio is pretty excellent, but I always love using it for the SMS because it's super easy. So the Philips Hue, these are my lights. Oh, we'll turn them on later. It's a great system, and there's a lot of control that you can have via your iPhone or via the website. They do not have a remote API. They do have a remote API, and currently they have a few clients. If this, then that, the iPhone, that's it. They don't share it with anybody else. So in order to get this to work, what I've done is spoofed my application as an iPhone. So this is how I get my system to work remotely, even though they don't have an open API. It's not secured that well. So the Hue Remote API, first I'm going to masquerade as an iPhone. In order to do that, you have to first grab a token, which you kind of have to do manually. It's not the sexiest behavior in the world. You have to go to the page, and then you sort of have to right-click on the back to the application and see what that token is that you got. And then you need to create the JSON post body. This is fantastic. There's nothing that's not fantastic about this. I will show you what this JSON body looks like, and it is really bizarre. And whatever you send to the endpoint, if it is valid JSON, it gives you a 200. Even if it has no clue what it is that you meant. You just send something, and it's like, OK, sure, got it. So you're just going to have to hope that it's right. Fortunately, I have taken this code and I have put it on the internet where you all can get it and thus not have to go through the exciting times that I went through trying to get it to work. So I'm going to show you how I set colors. One of the things that I learned to do was set the colors using my iPhone or the little picker on the Hue site, and then make a request to the API and say, what is that color? Because there's hue, there's brightness, there's saturation, there's an XY that determines where it is in the color map. So I have 4 colors. Red means I haven't really made any progress today. Orange means I'm kind of making a little bit of progress. Yellow means I'm getting there. And green means I have hit 100% of both my calories out and the protein that I want. And so I can get Ben & Jerry's and eat it. That's the way that works. So light, saturation, hue, all of these things are very complicated. So this is one of those cases where you want to go ahead and set it the way you want it, make a request to the API, and use it. Also, green is really hard to do, so I had to work pretty hard at that. Oh yes, this is my shameless plug. I have a book called Irresistible APIs. It teaches you how to make APIs that developers don't hate. And now I'm going to do a demo. So first, let's go ahead and look at Fitbit. and understand why it is that I don't like logging things here. They've gotten a lot better. It used to be that if you said chicken korma, it was like, chicken? You have chicken. I'm like, no, it's chicken korma. It's a thing that people actually eat in the world. So they've gotten much better at the food input, but I still would say that MyFitnessPal has a much better input. So one of the things that I really like about Fitbit, other than the fact that my tethering is going slowly, is that they don't have the kinds of activities that I want, and it's not crowdsourced like MyFitnessPal is. So if you want to put Zumba in there, all right, we'll just assume that it just has dancing. It used to have modern African dance or tribal African dance and ballroom dancing. Those were the choices, because that's what we all do, right? We don't go to Zumba. No one does that. So the problem is that if somebody else adds Zumba, you don't get to use it, right? So with MyFitnessPal, with food and with activities, you can say, I did this thing and I've copied the nutrition information down and I'm going to use it. So let's look at MyFitnessPal. First, we'll go ahead and let my guys sync. Sorry, it's bright. So basically what happens is, I'm going to demonstrate it first, because it's going to work, really. I'm going to get a message that tells me that I haven't logged any foods today. It's because I haven't eaten anything today. When I speak, I don't generally eat beforehand, but my system doesn't care. So I'm currently red. I'll move over to the Modulus. So I'm going to show you the code, show you what's actually happening, but let's go ahead and look at I'm using Modulus. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It's a hosting system. It's great for Node.js. They've started adding other languages, but I really, even over Heroku, I prefer the kind of logging that it has. All right, so it got a call. It's going to do something with the credentials. Basically, it's going to say who I am. And then I'm making these calls. Again, I'm going to show you oh, hey, look at that. As I said, I haven't done anything today. This is the color I get. So let me give you just an idea of what that call looks like. Can you guys see that up there? Do you want me to make it bigger? Is it good? OK. So this is the call that you have to make to the Philips Hue remote API in order to pretend like you're an iPhone and do something useful. Again, no matter what you send, you will get a 200. So you just have to look at your lights and see what they did. And they take about 20 seconds to determine that they actually want to do what they did. And then I send an SMS as well to myself to remind me. So let's look at the code. Oh, here, I can turn them off. Hey, here it is. 200. Got a 200. They should turn off in a few seconds. There's nothing better for a live demo than a slight delay, so you can stare at them and hope that they do what you want them to do. Oh yeah, if you guys have any questions, I am happy to answer them. We'll just look at it in Vim. See if we can get this big. Okay, so it's a Node.js server. I'm running it with Happy. It's very basic. We're registering as a target for Fitbit. We're telling Fitbit that when there's an activity change, we would like to know. You also need to set this up on the Fitbit site as under the application. If any of these things you want me to go to right away, just raise your hand because I can see you really well. So this is where I'm subscribing to the activity data once I have authenticated with the system. All right, let's take a look at the colors. All right, I'm going to make those bigger because they're not super easy to see. So you always have to say on true or on false. If you don't say on true or on false and you set or it's already, they're off like they are now, and I send them a color, they're not going to turn on. They have to be told that they want to turn on in order to get that color. So this is what color blobs look like. And again, the way I got these was I kept setting colors to different things and chose the colors that I wanted for my application. All right, so I'm going to check the foods and the activities. I was checking sleep. I'm not using that right now. But because I'm making 2 asynchronous calls, I'm going ahead and use promises here to determine when they are both done. I do check to make sure that it's at least 9 a.m. I'm not excited about getting texts and having my lights change at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Sorry to interrupt.
No worries.
If you all park near Bed Bath & Beyond,
they will tow you.
They will tow you, so please move. You might also mention something to the theater or tweet to Cinemark about the parking issue.
Yeah, yes.
How close to Bed Bath & Beyond counts? Like, if you're facing the front of it or if you're off to the side of it?
I think it's the front that they're most worried about. Yeah. Their employees will come out periodically, but they didn't come out consistently.
One last thing real quick. If people can stay out of the aisles and such here, we don't need the fire marshal to come after us. So if you think that you might be interested in a talk, just come in and have a seat.
Yeah, we're good speakers. We don't get distracted by people leaving. So again, what I'm doing here, and this will be easier once we go back to the logs again, is I'm checking the percentage. So the percentage is from 9 o'clock until 9 o'clock, 8.5% every hour, cumulative. And so I end up getting SMSs after so if I eat breakfast and I go for a walk, then I'm good for about half the day. And then at some point I start getting SMSs that remind me that I'm not actually keeping up on what I'm supposed to be doing. Very helpful so that when I get to the end of the day, my lights can be green. Because as a coder, I am perfectly capable of sitting still for 8 hours. I don't eat, I don't exercise, I don't look up. And strangely, I have a headache at the end of the day. And I've probably coded myself into some corner that I can't see out of because I've stayed in the zone a little too long. So it is very handy. It's like if you have an Apple Watch, which I don't use for this because it's the Roach Motel of data. Data checks in, doesn't check out, can't do anything with it unless Apple says so. So, and that's my data, right? It's my body, my data, but I can't have it. So I'm checking I make a percentage check. It's a calculation that I'm doing against how many hours it's been since 9 o'clock in the morning. And then I check the calories that I've burned against my percentage check, and I check the grams of protein against the percentage check. So we had red. You all saw red. So let's go ahead and add something into MyFitnessPal. Surely I've eaten something.
Are you pushing data to your app or are you pulling?
For Fitbit, basically I have a subscription to an update thing that tells me that something's updated. And when that happens, I pull it from Fitbit onto the Modulus server. So everything is in the cloud. But you can't, it doesn't push out the data. It just pushes out a notification that things have changed. All right, and then also whenever I sync my Fitbit, it'll send the subscription notification to say that it's happened. I've turned off Fitbit updates for during the day because otherwise these would just be going the entire time. All right, let's say for breakfast, you can see all the things that I normally have. Let's have eggs. We'll have a couple eggs. It'll help. So one of the things about MyFitnessPal is you can go ahead and check the nutrition for how you're doing. So my daily goal on protein is 102. It's actually 80. So I've gotten 13. It's better. Let's have some bacon too, because everything's better with bacon. I know this because I have a cookbook called Everything's Better with Bacon. It has bacon brittle, bacon cookies, all sorts of awesome bacon things. All right, so we'll have like 4 slices of bacon. Since I'm only imaginarily having these, there's no actual calories in them. All right, so you can see I've gotten up to 37 grams of protein. So let's go ahead and watch the logs and see what happens when I sync my Fitbit. I shouldn't get an SMS this time. I've gotten many SMSs this morning. It's very, very disappointed in me. All right, so we're watching the Modulus logs. They're on streaming right now. For those of you who haven't used Modulus, I think it's pretty awesome. I actually made a couple changes this morning and deployed them. It uses Git. It's super handy. But of course, it's going to take a minute because there we go. Still, well, it's orange. All right, well, we made it to orange. That's cool. So if you guys want us to yellow or green, I'll just change the code and deploy it live, because that's a great idea. But I want to show you guys how easy it is to deploy things. So again, I got a notification that there was a change. So I pulled the food information. So the food information tells me I have 37 grams of protein, which is what MyFitnessPal reported. And then we can see the activity information. I have more. So I'm simply going with calories out, just how many calories I've burned for the day. You can set it to whatever you want. Because of the things that you have to do with the tokens, you're gonna want to modify this a little bit for yourself anyways. So my calorie percentage is 37%. That's how much I've burned. And my protein percentage, hey, check me out. I'm at 46%. So I sent it to orange, but I didn't send an SMS. I only send an SMS if I am failing to do something I'm supposed to do. This is in order to annoy me when I am not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Another thing that Modulus allows, and it is something that's in my code, is you can set environment variables, which I'm going to make smaller so you can't read them. So you can set environment variables. I have my Twilio key is in here. I have my phone number for Twilio is in here. I have the token that I got from Philips Hue in order to pretend that I was an iPhone. I have the bridge ID for the bridge that I have because that token only identifies me. It doesn't necessarily identify the bridge that I'm using. I promise you all that this setup, even though everything is connected, the only rule to make this work is for this to have internet. I'm tethering it to my computer because there is no internet to be had. So my computer is tethered to my phone, which is tethered to my bridge. But the only thing that's necessary is that all 3 of these lights are on, indicating that I have wireless, I have connection to the internet. So are there any questions so far? Or I can show you other colors. I can show you how to deploy stuff on Modulus. And yes? Yeah, Modulus. You want to see Modulus deploy? Okay, so I'm going to make a live change to the code in front of people. All right, so we'll say orange is now green. and green is now orange. I don't want to be confused. So when you set up a Modulus project on Modulus, it keeps track of it. So once you do a Modulus login, just like you're doing a Heroku login, you just do Modulus deploy. And it says, are you sure you want to go to this project? If you have multiple projects, it'll ask you which one you want to deploy it to. This is a very simple set of code. I'm running an index.js. I don't have a lot of libraries. It's all in one place because I wanted to make a good sample code for people to be able to use. And the more abstract you make your code, the harder it is for people to copy it and do what they want to do with it. So I trust you all to make beautiful modules for anything you want to do production-wise. I'm not sure that this is something you'd want to do as a production code, but it might be something you want to run for yourself. And if you make any changes to it, please let me know. So as you can see, I deployed to Modulus. It did an npm install to get all of the pieces that I need. That's what that is. And now it's done. All right, let's see if it works. All right, let's check the logs. They're faster than the other stuff. Nothing yet, because it shows you that the last thing it did was it started the server. Oh, it's not streaming. We'll make it stream. All right. So we told them to do their thing. And they should change. Darn. There we go. All right. Green. Green is a hard color, by the way. One of the LEDs is green, so getting green, because one of the LEDs is green, is really hard. Doesn't make any sense. So this limey green is the best you're going to get. You can kind of get an aqua, but aqua doesn't look as much like a stoplight as my fantastic green does here. Okay, so that's a lot of pieces that I'm putting together. Again, we're starting with MyFitnessPal. MyFitnessPal shares the information with Fitbit. Whenever you update something in MyFitnessPal, it tells Fitbit. I am using Fitbit to keep track of my activity, using my Fitbit Blaze, which is the new one. It's really cool. It's got colors and stuff. Still not as pretty as my iWatch, though. And then I'm sending notifications to myself using Twilio. And then I'm updating the color of my Philips Hue using the remote API that I created. Now, the remote API stuff probably seems a little overly difficult, and it is. So we'll go to my blog pretty soon. And I will point out that, in fact, I have written up a blog post about how to do exactly what I did. So the code that I gave you, unfortunately, assumes that you already have a token, because there's no automatic way to get this token. You kind of just have to pretend to be an iPhone, and then you get the token. But this tells you all the things that you need to do in order to get your bridge ID and your token. It shows you how to make a simple call. So you can make a simple call to get the status. And for that, you just have to send in the token information. And then this, well, this is the simplest call that you can make that will succeed, which says, for all of my lights, turn them off. So I will show you in the command line. I'll put it up at the top because it'll be easier to see. So I like to use HTTPie. How many of you are HTTPie fans? Know about HTTPie? Good, it's good. A few people. curl is not designed for interacting with APIs. Curl is designed for interacting with web pages. Curl is a pain in the butt for interacting with APIs. It sort of barfs the JSON out for you. It makes it very difficult to understand. It doesn't tell you what you want. So when you use HTTP instead, wow. I wasn't expecting them to react so well, but they did. So it shows you what it is that I sent. I sent this post to the send message with the token, and then I sent the body with this clip message, which is, so there's this anti-pattern I want to talk a little bit about, and talk about it in relation to the Philips Hue API. So there's this anti-pattern where you send something as a form, but really what you're doing is you're sending it with one item, and that one item has URI encoded JSON. Okay, that's actually not how that works, right? You should be sending application JSON, and that should be your post body, and you shouldn't have to do this strange dance in order to come up with something that the system likes. Fortunately, that if you do a bad job of URI encoding your JSON, it doesn't think it's, and you don't get a 200, which is great. So you can see I got my 200. It's all good, and everything is it's off. So does anybody have any questions about everything so far? Anything? Yes.
How'd you go about, like, I'm assuming they don't have like a documented open API, right, for you? Or are they
Yeah, you just have to sort of, it's like,
what did you do to actually,
it's like bobbing for apples.
so what did you do to kind of do that?
There are some people who, there's some people who have made libraries that kind of do it. I didn't want to use a library, I wanted to understand it. So I kind of had to reverse engineer those libraries. And there's like 3 people out there who have done it before. And they sort of skip over the part where you create the call. They're like, oh yeah, so you just make a clip message and it has this stuff in it, it's all good. So let's take a look at what that message actually looks like. This is what I changed today, was I made it prettier. So you have to send, so again, you're sending a request to the send message. You have one parameter, and that is the token ID. You must send a thing that is clip message. It has to have a bridge ID and then a clip command in it. Notice that clip message is all lowercase and clip command is not. Okay, so that's great. That's just how you would expect it to work, right? So we're making you have to make a post, even if you're doing a put. Everything is a post. So I'm making a post with the method of put to the group's 0 action. Now I could also say lights 1 status. Action is what you do for groups. Status is what you do for individual lights. They work exactly the same way, but you have to post to a different endpoint. It has come to occur to me why it is that Philips Hue might not be sharing the remote API widely, because it needs a little work. But you can make it work. So here, and then again, I'm putting the exact color that I want. And those are all the pieces that you need. So alert none. You can do the flashy thing if you want. You can have it go through all of the different colors that it knows. These are all things that you can do on the website or with the iPhone, and these are things that you can do with the API as well. Anything you can do with the iPhone, you can do with the API. It's required. There's no way for you to spoof as an iPhone and not be able to do what the iPhone can do. Any other questions? Yes?
What are some future things that you might want to do with this?
That's a really good question. I actually would really like an internet-enabled freezer. So that when I do make it to green, I get to have some Ben & Jerry's. It makes it possible for me. I would like to check the type of food I have. So I would like to eat some produce on a regular basis. That doesn't automatically come through from MyFitnessPal, so I'm going to have to maybe go with fiber, things that have fiber but not a lot of fat or protein. So algorithmically, I'm going to have to figure out how to do a lot of those things, but those are the kinds of things that are interesting to me. I would like to eat 80 grams of protein and some produce every day. Not that worried about carbs. I eat too many of them anyways. So, and I can also say you're eating too many carbs, right? We could make it like that. I would like to make the time stuff a little bit more magical. There's not great time that comes from Fitbit, so I have to sort of figure out what it's doing in that case. So I kind of have to say it's this time here, so now it's 9 o'clock, and then it kind of works. The Fitbit's pretty good at syncing time-wise. I mean, what would you want to do?
I'm just thinking through the whole thing, and I couldn't come up with anything myself.
Oh, the other thing you can do is you can have your lights do different things, right? This one could be calories, this one could be water, and that one could be protein. So you can keep track of it that way. You can have them flash if something particularly exciting happens, like you put in some exercise and it'll flash. The Philips Hue light bulbs are really pretty fantastic as IoT things. Once you get past the part where you can only use if this then that, or an iPhone or the website, and if this then that doesn't work. So. So you can use blood pressure, but the other thing you can do with the Fitbit is your heart rate. And so you can actually watch your heart rate and see when you're exercising what it looks like, but what's your resting heart rate. And if your resting heart rate is high, it means you're stressed. And so it might ping you once an hour to get up and stretch and look at the trees or something. Any kind of, I actually, that's one of the things, thanks for reminding me, that I was going to work with was the resting heart rate, because that's one of the biggest indicators of fitness, and it's also one of the biggest indicators of health. Okay? Any other questions? Yes? No? Yes?
There was like an open shopping list API that would also make it easy to order groceries from the grocery store.
Uh-huh. That would be nice. The other thing you could do is you could create a pantry out of the things that you bought, and then you could make it easy to determine, that you ate one of those things. It could go find out what the nutritional information is for that thing and put it in. There are some pretty decent nutrition APIs on the web. They're not super great, but you can make them great. You just have to sort of give them a little bit more help than you might want to. Yes? I have not. I suspect they have the same issues as the Apple Watch, which is getting the data out is against their terms of service. For the Apple Watch, you can go with Apple Home. You can do something with the Apple Health Kit, but I can't get this information out to use it to drive something else. I can only do what Apple wants me to do. I haven't worked with the Microsoft device, but I strongly suspect that they have a very similar situation. Yeah?
Actually, you can get the data somewhere unless you can get the Hue collector.
Uh-huh.
Out
of which one?
Out of Microsoft's Health Phone.
Oh, cool. That's good. Hacking it is not good. They should have an open API. I have a lot of people who are like, well, if you wanted to get the data out of the Apple Watch, first what you'd do is you'd write an iPhone app. Okay, first of all, I'd write an iPhone app is not the correct first step for easy use of APIs. But then the second thing that you would do is you would have that iPhone app post the information that it got from your watch to your server so that you could use it, and then you would be violating Apple's terms of service because that's their data. They measured your body. That information is coming directly from you, but you can't have it. You can simply use it in their ecosystem, and that's all you can do. All right, any other questions? Yes? So you have to, basically I have a hub. So I have Twilio, I have a Twilio key, I have a Twilio phone number. Those are the pieces of information I need for Twilio. So I authenticate to that separately. I keep those keys in the administration section of my Modulus because that means I can share my code with you and you can just set this stuff up yourself or hard code it. So there's a Twilio SID, there's a Twilio token, there's a Twilio phone number, and then my phone number so that I can send myself the texts. I had Twitter stuff because I had to do Twitter. There's a Twitter library and there's a Twilio library for Node. For almost every language, there are libraries to make the authentication pretty easy. They both use OAuth. And you get a refresh token. The Hue token and Hue Bridge ID, because it's not really an open API, they don't really have good authentication. The authentication they have is I'm an iPhone. Here's your token. Now I'm good. I can hand that token around to everyone. Oh, and the best part is it's in the URL, right? That's the safest place to put your authentication information, is right there in the URL for everyone to see. It is, in fact, HTTPS, so it's relatively secure. But if someone looks in your code, they're going to find out what your token is. And that's not ideal. So I have a little, actually, I'm supposed to go to 10:15. Okay, cool. Anybody else have any questions? Yes?
Have you looked into using any other systems other than the Quantifying? Because I know Fitbit has a bolt. I know that they're developing an open API, and people have done some things that are listed on like NPM, but I didn't know if you tried any.
I have not tried those. I would like to, but my budget for fun toys is strained as it is with all the things that I buy. But I would love to find one of the systems that actually has a supported, evangelized, and great API with a fantastic developer experience. If I found that, I would tell everyone about it. Modulus likes that I talk about them, so they send me shirts and stuff, which is really nice of them. If you hear about any of them or have you end up working with them, if you could let me know, that would be awesome. I like to crowdsource my spending. So, okay, there's another one up there.
It was kind of a similar question. What other devices have you interacted with that have an API that's light and great?
Love the Fitbit. Runkeeper is a great API. I mean, I've done mashups of all sorts of things. I did LinkedIn and Freebase and Amazon, and I made a thing where you could find the books that were made into movies, and then you could watch the movie or buy the book. I love APIs. I work with them all the time. I worked with the Withings API before it was actually integrated with Fitbit. Now it's done, so I don't have to do it myself. The health devices like Fitbit and Withings and Runkeeper do have some of the best APIs I've seen out there in terms of usability and completeness. So, you know, all those cool fitness apps that you have, a lot of them are using Fitbit on the back end to store and use the data, which is a huge advantage. Yes?
Do you have anything that aggregates on like a weekly or monthly basis so you can kind of see how did I do for this month?
I could do that. I should do that. I have not yet done that. I wanted to use D3 to make some cool graphs, and things, and I may well do that as well, because then that'll give me some idea of progress. One of the things that I want to keep track of is, over time, my resting heart rate. Once again, the better I'm doing in terms of activity and eating reasonable foods and not being stressed, the lower my resting heart rate will be. Yes?
I have a treadmill desk and I use it in tandem with my Fitbit, so maybe you could use either a combination of how you're trending towards your goal or your heart rate to communicate with your treadmill to speed it up or slow it down.
An internet-enabled treadmill would be super cool. And you know, if you're, I mean, so there's things that you can measure and determine things like, I have an exercise bicycle. It's super fantastic. And I've determined that one NCIS episode is 9 miles. But one episode of The Good Wife is only 8 miles. So, you know, maybe I could tell my TV to play something that's appropriate for how I'm doing today. Like, you're going to need to bike 10 miles. You're going to have to watch something really exciting. So, one of the things that I want you guys to take away from this is when you measure something, you change it. And you usually change it for the better. Even if you just write down what you eat all day long, one of the things that Weight Watchers always says is if you log your foods, you know, it'll make a difference. And it does make a difference, because when you're staring at that zinger and you're like, I'll just have this because I'm hungry and I want some sugar, and then you have to write down one zinger. It's like financial planning. It's like reviewing anything else that you do. It helps you to do a better job. So what this does is it allows you to say, this is my goal for the day. And I really want to achieve this goal, but I want something else to keep track of it for me because I'm busy and lazy. So that's kind of one of the things I want to encourage people to think outside the box, think about what you can measure, think about what you can measure and use in an API, and you can make whatever kind of feedback you want for yourself. Yes? Yes. So just like the Zumba thing, if you know you want to add Zumba and then have it something that you can actually add the activity type, or you can add activities. DailyBurn used to be a fantastic site with a great API, and then they became a pretty good site with no API, and I lost all interest in them. But they made it possible for you to post things in there, and Fitbit does as well. But I would probably just use the input. I'd like to take a picture of my food and have it just work, right? Those are 2 eggs, and that's bacon, and that's toast. Go. So, I've actually thought a lot about different ways of, scan the barcode. I ate that. There's ways to get that information. So, why should I have to put it in manually? Anything that happens just sort of automatically, ambiently, is actually a better way to get information than to have to actively ask for that information, because then you're relying on yourself to remember that that's what you want to do when you're coding and your head's down. I like the idea of the stressed out walking, though. I'm totally adding that one. All right, I still have a few minutes. Yes?
Have you thought about ways where you could share, if you have a fitness team, right? You can share colors with them, and they can share their colors to some of your devices.
Sure, you could make a game out of it, right? If you get more than 300 calories in an hour, right, the light turns your color, right? you guys could have a race where you're trying to, it's just like any voting thing, but you could do it by eating protein or exercising or whatever it is that you want to measure. As I said, there's a lot of things that Fitbit measures. There's activities, there's foods, I'm getting those. There's also sleep. Sleep is something that you actually might want to pay attention to as well. They have the sleep data that tells you what exactly your sleep looked like. And so if your sleep was really cruddy, then you probably want to move around a little bit more that day, right? Or maybe take a nap. You know, I mean, given that sort of information, I just want to get that information ambiently. I don't want to have to go ask. I don't even want to check my iPhone. Yeah?
How hard would it be, do you think, to aggregate two people's data? Like, my wife and I like to be like really competitive on stuff like this.
It would actually be really easy. I have it originally was the case that you could put in your phone number and then log in with Fitbit, and it would track the different people separately. And then once you're tracking the different people separately, then you could have a cage match, and it would be awesome. and you could judge each other, right? You could each have your own light and use a larger spectrum and
I was just thinking like you could have like the Olympic podium. And your life would be like number one.
Yeah, totally. You could totally do that. That's relatively easy to add in a simple form that grabs your phone number, goes and gets the information from Fitbit, and then throws it into the little MongoDB that it's currently using. Yes?
What does the data look like coming out of Fitbit? I mean, obviously,
This is what it looks like. So this is foods.
is it like a point in time, or is it a range?
Oh, it is for the day. Yes, it's from the beginning of the day to now. Or it's the whole day if it's another day.
What about the sleep data?
Same thing. It's your last night's sleep.
So does it push every time you sync?
It pushes a notification every time you sync.
So if you have like all day syncing turned on, does that happen like every few minutes? Or what's that?
It happens about every 10 minutes, and you will get a lot of SMSs, but on the other hand, that's actually really good because I don't want to say every hour. I want to know now if I need to, because it won't send an SMS if you're doing a good job. So I kind of want it to be annoying. That's sort of my purpose, is to annoy myself.
Maybe you could use the sleep data to turn on your two light bulbs in the morning.
It's entirely possible. That's one of the things. So a lot of the devices now have a thing where they figure out what time to wake you up. So if they actually expose that information via an API, you could say, well, I'm going to have to wake up in about a half an hour. This is the right time in my sleep cycle. Now I'm going to start ramping up the hue light. And that's something that I've thought about, but they don't currently expose those time periods where it's ideal to wake you up. Somebody, yes?
What's the benefit to have two Apple Watches?
Oh, I love Apple. I have all of the Apple things. But this is an Apple Watch and this is a Fitbit. So this is the one that actually interacts with the system. This one, again, Roach Motel, right? I get the information. It's really pretty. It's got those little things that go around, but I can't do anything with the data. And it's more of a toy to me because I can't access the information. Anyone else? No one else? You have a question? No? Just itching. Okay, I will be around for a little bit after if you guys want to see the stuff. There is code on GitHub, and there is a blog post on my site that tells you how to get that token from and pretend that you're an iPhone. If you have any questions, tweet me or find me, and I will be happy to answer them. Thanks very much, everybody.